And now we go live to Chantel Miller. She's the founder of Island Girls Rock, a network for Caribbean women in London. She attended that special House of Commons meeting about the Windrush Scandal, and she joins us now live. Hi, Chantel. Thank you so much for joining us. So tell me, what were some of the important takeaways from yesterday's meeting at the House of Commons?
Hi, thanks for having me. I think for me, one of the most important takeaways was that we cannot allow this issue to be swept under the rug, as it were, and we have to keep what is happening in the public's mindset. We have to push our local MPs. We have to contact the media with our individual stories and encourage persons to do so. This is vital. This is important. This is not something that we can actually afford to be polite about. That was one of my biggest takeaways.
Now, I know you do a lot of work with the Caribbean community in London. Tell me, how has this affected Caribbean-born English people, and is there widespread feeling of insecurity? And of course, let me just let my audiences know, you are third-generation Windrush, aren't you?
I am indeed. My mother was sent for when she was 6 years old by her parents, who were asked to come to this country to rebuild after the Second World War. So I am indeed third generation.
And talk to me about how the community is feeling, how they're coping with the fallout of this scandal.
We are angry. We we are disenfranchised. We are frustrated. It's such a melange of feelings, Soyini. It's anger. It's hurt. You know, as I think it was Diane Abbott said last night. You know, the Windrush generation are some of the most patriotic British citizens that you would ever find. And it's so true. You know, if I don't stand to attention during the national anthem, even if it's been played in my grandmother's house, the looks that I get are serious. So, you know, to have this come up, to feel that all the work that they've contributed to rebuilding this country has been taken for granted, it's like a slap in the face, really. And so the community is angry, and we're hoping to harness that anger into action.
And talk to me a little bit about that action. What is the community doing to help itself cope with the fallout and help those who may have been deported or being threatened with deportation cope with what's happening?
Right, so we have a very poor network connection right now, and that is purely my fault and where I'm based at the moment. But I think you were asking, what does that action look like? I got that much.
Yes, that's exactly what I asked.
Okay, okay, great. So I got most of it. You know, the action looks like, you know, calling on our immigration experts within the community, and even without, to be honest, you know, anyone who is willing to help with their legal expertise, because this is where, you know, this is where the action is to be taken. This is how we get to the root of the problem, by tackling it from a legislative and strategic approach. You know, yes, emotions are important. It's important for us to feel that this is something that we have to do, but we need the expertise. So it's really about calling out to that section of our community to step forward and to help. There are cases pending. There will be more cases, and we just need that expertise.
Thank you so much, Chantel, for chatting with us about that House of Commons meeting that happened yesterday. We're going to stay in touch with you just to find out how this case has been going, because we've been covering it extensively. So we move from Chantel Miller in London, and we're going to go to Pablo Navarette. The treatment of the Windrush generation immigrants has provoked anger among many black people in Britain. And Pablo is actually at a protest in Brixton at the moment, which is just about to begin. So we're going to talk to him about it. Pablo, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you're hearing me. Give me a little nod. Tell me what is happening at the moment at that protest.
So we're in Brixton in South London, one of the centres of the Caribbean community in London and in Britain. And in a few minutes, a protest will begin that will run for 2 hours, organised by Stand Up for Racism, an activist group fighting racism, and we will be attended by various writers, journalists, the opposition the Labour Party Home Secretary, Diane Abbott, will be attending. And it is a coming together of various strands of British society. As you say, this Windrush scandal has caused widespread anger, not only in the Caribbean community, but in the wider society. People are truly shocked at how the sons and daughters of this Windrush generation who were asked to come or who were invited to Britain after the Second World War have been left by the British government in a state of limbo, often stateless. And we are hearing primarily through the Guardian newspaper very tragic stories of how members of these children have often been unable to find jobs, have been sacked from jobs, have been left homeless. One mother even said that her son, the stress of this situation has contributed to her son's death last month. So the Theresa May government is under increasing pressure to find answers to explain how this has happened to the approximate 60,000 Caribbean people who are affected, 1 in every 1,000 people in Britain. So it's a scandal of a significant magnitude.
Quick question, Pablo. The British government has apologized for what it called its mistakes. Is that apology reaching the people? Are the people satisfied with that apology?
I was filming here in Brixton 2 days ago on Wednesday for a video report that will come out shortly on Teletold English, and I got the sense that this apology was not being accepted. It's not simple. People here do not see this as simply as a mistake. But we must remember that Theresa May was Home Secretary a couple of years ago, and she called for a policy to make immigration for people to feel uncomfortable in Britain. So it seems to be more of a policy designed by the government rather than a mistake, which is what the government is now stating that it is. So I don't think people are willing to accept the government's apologies at the moment, and they want real answers, and they want the government they want to know how many people have been forced to leave the country and what the state of and how these people will effectively regain their British citizenship.
Well, you're talking about they want real answers. How do the protesters think that the issue should be resolved?
I mean, I think there are various options. The Labour Party has been very critical of the Conservative government. Obviously, Theresa May tried to blame the Labour itself, but this turns out to be not the case, it seems. There are no real concrete answers, but the first step has to be that the Home Office tells us how many people truly are affected, how their process will be regularised. They have promised to do this, but there are still cases of people who are unable to get NHS treatment because of their stateless state, effectively.
Thank you so much for that report. We've been talking to Pablo Navarette. He is our London correspondent, and he is actually at a protest that's about to begin in Brixton about the Windrush Scandal, and we're going to expect a report from him on the actual protest in a later newscast.